Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sim. Thank you so much for the support. Hope you all are doing great. So, I came across a video where Charlie Kirk was talking about how if you have if you make your product in United States, it means you won't pay tax, right? Now, I am going to say this. How many people can afford to make their product in US because of the cost of things, labor, and all that? If most products are being made in United States, it means the standard of living in United States will absolutely be extremely expensive. Why? Because people might not be able to afford it because the labor is a very expensive. Now he is saying that if your product is made in US, you are not going to pay tax. Now I am going to tell you this that this tariff will affect you directly or indirectly. You people do not understand that. How is it going to affect you? It is going to affect you in the sense that if your product is being made in US and the resources, the resources used in making the product are not being produced in US, you are buying it from outside US, it means you are also being tariffed because for you to bring in those products, you are going to pay the tariff. And when you pay the tariffs and bring it in, it means there is already a shift in the cost of the product because in the end, you are going to add up all the products, all the costs into the product, making the whatever you are producing in America expensive. When they tell you that education is not, if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. Education is not a waste of time. So please, let's get into this video.
Okay, everybody, lots of questions about the tariffs right now. A couple things to remember. Number one, if you make a product in America, you don't actually have to pay the tariff. We explain that in great detail on our show, so I encourage you guys to subscribe to the Charlie Kirk Show podcast page and to download a couple episodes. We talk about what is a tariff, what is the history of tariffs. Did you know we used to fund our government entirely with tariffs before the income tax? We used to primarily fund our government through this. This is a reorientation of the global order. People voted for this. It is going to be a process that is unfolding, and we explain it all on our podcast. So check it out, everybody. Subscribe if you have any questions. We are here to answer them, and we need to make stuff in this country again to support the muscular class that rose up in record numbers back in November. Talk to you guys soon. If you make a product in America, you don't actually have to pay the tariff.
Years ago, I had a family member whose insurance prices suddenly went up out of the blue. Nothing had changed with the plan. She had had this plan for years through her husband's employer, and the price suddenly went up a considerable amount. So she called the insurance company to find out what was going on, and they said, oh, Obamacare did this. Here's the thing, though. This plan was not affected by Obamacare. The only existing insurance plans that were affected by the Affordable Care Act were insurance plans that were so crappy that they did not meet the minimum requirements of the Affordable Care Act, which, as someone who has been on a marketplace plan before, and I've also been on some really good insurance plans before, I can tell you right now that the minimum requirements are not much. What happened is this company saw the opportunity to jack up all of their prices and blame it on something they had no control over, and they took it because what are their customers going to do? Complain to the government, I guess, right? It's not even the insurance company's fault at that point. It's Obamacare. Do you really think that companies that manufacture here in the United States aren't going to look around and see that all of their competitors are being forced to raise their prices 25% and they're not going to raise theirs 20%? They'll still be the cheapest item on the shelf, but we will be paying more for it. You don't think that's going to happen, Charlie? See, I think this is exactly what's going to happen because I have worked for a number of publicly traded companies, and anyone who's worked for a number of publicly traded companies knows that a publicly traded company is not really concerned about customer retention as like its number one goal. They are not concerned about having a long-term good reputation in their industry. They are not really concerned about keeping employees, making sure that they offer decent pay and decent benefits, even though it's less expensive to retain employees than it is to train new ones all the time. What they're concerned with mainly is making their shareholders shut up. That's what they're mainly concerned with. They want to get on those quarterly earnings calls and they want to make sure the investors don't have any complaints. So they let those investors who are not industry experts, who do not work for the company, dictate corporate policy, because that makes the investors happy, and the investor is king in this bizarre society we currently have. Do investors care about the long-term success of a company? Not necessarily. A lot of them are just looking for quarter-over-quarter profit. So they want infinite profit, and they want it done as quickly as possible so that they can get theirs and go. The only company I've personally witnessed actually stand up to investors who were demanding unreasonable things for the sake of their own profit is Costco. And that was a few years ago. But when grocery prices were skyrocketing due to COVID, because this was like in 2021 or 2022, somewhere around there, I listened to part of an earnings call for Costco, and one of the investors had gone on and was talking about how customers were tolerating higher grocery prices at other stores, and would Costco be raising their prices in order to test how much they'll tolerate, essentially. And the CFO at the time, at least, he's not the CFO anymore, but anyway, he was like, we're fine. Like, we are making a good profit. Our members are happy. There's no reason for us to jack the prices up. The idea that people are tolerating higher grocery prices as if these aren't necessities was absolutely ghoulish in my mind. And I just was sitting there going like, I'm glad the Costco CFO actually said that, but also, what is wrong with you? Like, of course people are tolerating higher grocery prices. That means they're not paying for other things probably. Like, that's what's happening. But that's the mindset of a lot of investors, is they don't really care about the long-term efficacy of any of the changes that are being made. They just want short-term profits and as much as humanly possible. So, of course, they're going to push for prices being raised and using tariffs as an excuse for the American companies. They're going to do that. Why would you expect anything different? Imagine there's going to be some smaller companies and non-publicly traded companies that choose not to do this on principle. But if it's publicly traded, you know that the investors are going to be demanding it. And by and large, companies cave to investors. That is just across the board what I have witnessed. So we're going to see higher prices even on American-made goods. We are.
If you make a product in America, you don't actually have to pay the tariff.
Yeah, but listen up, clown face. Number one, I don't make products. I buy products primarily from China. And China just implemented a 34% tariff to combatorate what Donald Trump is now doing. So as a person who is a consumer that buys things, yeah, we do pay the tariffs.
If you make a product in America, you don't actually have to pay the tariff.
Well, that's not true, not even a little bit. And I'm going to use the tariffs that Donald Trump put on the automobile industry as an example. See, Donald Trump put a 25% tariff on all automobiles not made in the United States. See, Ford Motor Company has an assembly plant down in Mexico that produces the Bronco Sport and the Ford Maverick, its small truck. But the transmissions for those vehicles are made in the United States, then shipped to Mexico and assembled there. So if we're tariffing the vehicle coming in to the United States, that's also a tariff on the transmission that was made in the United States. So when the prices are raised on Bronco Sports and Ford Mavericks and they stop selling, that will directly affect jobs in the United States, UAW workers who make the transmissions for those vehicles. And that will also affect vehicles made in the United States, because some of the parts are coming from outside the United States. So we'll get a tariff on those parts, which will then be added to the vehicles assembled here in the United States, increasing the prices.
What's that? If you make a product in America, you don't actually have to pay the tariff.
Oh, well, that was a big lie, and he knows it's a big lie, and I can prove it using an easy example, this 100% American-made Florida tangerine right here. See, Charlie is counting on you not thinking about the fact that, yeah, if something's 100% made in America, that exact item won't get a tariff on it, but the entire supply chain and how it's made and all the materials and all of the other parts of it are going to go up in price, right? Let's take a look at this Florida tangerine, right? It grows on a tree, you pick it off. Why would there be a tax on on that? Why would there be a tariff on that? Well, what about the hoses for the irrigation to bring water to this tangerine? What about the tractor that's used as these are put into the back of a tractor and then driven off to the supply area so they can be packaged? What about the bags, the netting that these are put in, right? Is the netting made in America? You know, when you buy tangerines at the grocery store and they have that little plastic netting around it, 10%. It went up at least 10%, the price of just that netting alone. Where's the label made that goes on that netting, Charlie? And then let's go talk about the rest of the supply chain. The truck that you needed to go put this tangerine at the grocery store. Every single part of that truck, were they all made in America? Because now if anything goes wrong with that truck, that part's going to need to get replaced, which means maintenance costs are going to go up because that part goes up. So now they're going to go pass that on to the actual seller of the tangerine, who's going to pass it on to the buyer. Once we get to the grocery store itself, are all the light bulbs made in America, Charlie? All those fluorescent light bulbs hanging over everybody's head. What about the shelving units? What about the refrigeration units that are used in the produce section, Charlie? What about all of the other different parts of that building itself of the grocery store? Is there anything that might need to be replaced in the near future that isn't made in America? Because all of them went up at least 10%, because we put a 10% tariff on the entire world at the minimum, and at the maximum, it is percentages that we can't even imagine because they were imagined by ChatGPT as they were handed off to college students that you spent the last 4 years distracting from going into their classes while you stood out in a tent and yelled, "No, it's the wokes and DEI that are causing all these problems, Charlie." And Charlie, I'm even talking about something very simple like a tangerine that's grown right here in Florida. I'm not even getting into anything more complicated like a t-shirt, Charlie, because I know for a fact that your t-shirt costs went up because Turning Point USA, the organization that you run that is funneling billionaire money to make sure that these kids keep voting to lower taxes somewhere along the line and destroy the world and maybe conquer Greenland or some shit, that organization that you run uses Gildan t-shirts. And Gildan t-shirts, the blanks that you then get screen printed, those are not made here in America. Where are your t-shirts made, Charlie? They're made in Latin America and Southeast Asia. So your t-shirt costs have gone up. Your costs are going up. You don't buy American. You don't use American labor. You just use American voters. And then you turn to them and tell them the money's on the dresser and it's never there. Wait, what was that?
If you make a product in America, you don't. Okay, everybody, lots of questions about the tariffs right now.
Fucking fun, niggas. We about to fact check this shit. First, if you fuck with me, make sure you hit the follow button. Our goal is 100,000 followers. Let's get it.
Couple things to remember. Number one, if you make a product in America, you don't actually have to pay the tariff.
Yeah, if Charlie Kirk is watching this, that doesn't make any fucking sense. A lot of companies actually pledge that they're gonna put trillions of dollars into the United States. But you know how long it's gonna take for these facilities to be fucking built? Hyundai, for instance, said that their plant won't open until 2028. That is 3 fucking years later. And with Donald Trump's luck, we don't know what the fuck is gonna happen till then. Also, there is a lot of things that the United States cannot produce here that we need to import. For example, car parts. There's a lot of car parts that is not made in the United States. It has to be brought into the United States. So that means car vehicles and fixing cars is going to be a lot more expensive than it is now. Also, the lack of cheaper options. Because we know when anything is made in America, it's a lot more expensive. And if these tariffs work how they're supposed to work, that means we have a lot less cheaper options.
Did you know we used to fund our government entirely with tariffs before the income tax? We used to primarily fund our government through this.
Yeah, that's pure bullshit. Wow, yes, income tax didn't start until 1861, but we had other taxes before that. I mean, we had property tax in 1796. I mean, there's evidence showing that we had property tax way before 1796. America was not fucking thriving off of tariffs alone.
This is a reorientation of the global order. People voted for this. It is going to be a process.
In other words, they fucked around and found out.
If you make a product in America, you don't actually have to pay the tariff.
That is simply not true, and he knows this. Mr. Small Face Baby Teeth knows this, but he thinks you don't know this. I make pins and stickers. Obviously, my pins are outsourced. We're not going to talk about that, but we're going to talk about stickers. I have two kinds. I have some that I make at home and some that I outsource. Here's the thing. They're both going to go up, even though both produced all in America. This one, the paper that I use, which is very specific paper, it's going to go up because of tariffs. The ink, which is a specific archival ink, so it doesn't age and yellow and get weird, going to go up because of tariffs. This envelope, the cost of this envelope is going to go up. So that means I have to add more into my pricing to justify that. The foil on this is going to go up. I have to add more into my pricing. But then don't use those envelopes. Fine. Shipping envelopes are going to go up. I have to add that into my pricing. He knows this. He's just hoping you don't know this.
If you make a product in America, you don't actually have to pay the tariff.
I know that Charlie Kirk has a huge following. And mainly it's because the boy's on the spectrum. He's either got Asperger's or autism, which is fine. My son has autism as well. And I'm not knocking him. He's smart. However, he's also become just a talking puppet for the right-wing everything. Media, right-wing conglomerate, which is crazy. You should stick with facts. Number one, yes, if you make something in America, you don't have to pay a tariff. However, perfect example, this pin that I'm holding, it's made by Pilot. Now, Pilot mass produces this in America, so that way they can keep the prices down, right? So that way when you buy a pack of pins, let's just say you buy a pack of 4 of these, it costs you $6-7. It probably costs them less than $1 to make it. So that way they make some form of profit. But for them to keep it at that dollar price and then to sell it to Walmart, who then sells it to you for $7, they have to mass produce it, which means they also have to use a ton of machinery, all kinds of stuff just to get this going. And all the plastic and parts and everything that comes in this to piece it together, even though it was probably manufactured in America, all the pieces came from China, Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, etc., etc. Then what you're also not thinking is for them to package all of this stuff, to put it in a nice marketable package of 4, and then box thousands of them to send all over America to distribution plants in Amazon and for Walmart, etc., etc. How the hell are they doing all that? Where do you think they're getting all the logistic packaging equipment, the 4-pack that it comes in, the plastic, the cardboard behind it that advertises what it is? All of that is cheaply bought out of country. Because if you went to a print store in America and said, hey, I need some plastic and I need some stuff that says what kind of pin this is. It's a black ink pin from Pilot. It has whatever the features are of this pen. I don't even know what they are, right? All of that at a print store in America, very expensive. I know this because I am starting my own company. Very, very expensive to do everything in America. So much cheaper to do it outside. And why is that? Because common sense, Americans don't want to be paid chump change to do it. And if you own a business, you realize how dumb all these tariffs and everything are and how much they're going to hurt the middle class and small businesses. But I digress, right? I don't know nothing. I'm not Charlie Kirk.
This is all I got from this video, and Charlie Kirk is just like another someone that no. See, I understand it's good to have platform. Sometimes there is a time where your platform will require critical thinking. You find out that you do not have it. Charlie Kirk probably I do not have problem with people that did not go to college, right? But the same Charlie Kirk is always the one that did not go to college, but he is very quick to say that if I see a black doctor or if I see a black nurse or a black pilot, right, I am going to ask if the person is qualified enough. Now back to the main gist. I read business administration and management. I know a little bit about all this tariff because, economics is also something that is also required for you to also understand business, right? Now, he is saying that if your business is made in America, you do not need to pay tariff. Let me tell you, directly or indirectly, if you have your business in America, the tariff is going to affect you. Why am I saying this? Now, let me ask you this. If you have a whole food company, right, and your company, you produce in US, and there are some products that you use in that company that is not made in US, just like the way they might use tangerine to talk about it. Directly, you might not be. Directly, the tax might not be coming to you, tariff might not be coming to you, but indirectly, you are getting the tariff. Why? Because for you to grow a tangerine and all of that, they have pest control. They have fertilizer to start growing. They have tractor that move around to check the distance. Then I don't know where they pack the produce. Maybe they have refrigerator and other things and the rest of it. So if you have, where do you buy your fertilizers? Where are your fertilizers being shipped in from? Where are your tractors body parts being shipped in from? Where are they? Like everything that is put up in that place that you produce all that, where are they coming from? Are they coming from countries that are also being tariffed? If it is coming from that tariff, it means when you buy all those things and bring it into America, you are paying tariff, right? And the cost of that thing you imported is going directly into your business because you are buying it for business. I don't know if that does make sense. So when you put that in your business, then it skyrockets the price of the tangerine. It's just like saying that you don't pay, oh yeah, I don't pay tax because maybe I am still a baby or I am still a child. I don't know if that does make sense. You are not paying tax directly, but indirectly you are paying tax. How are you paying tax? If you drink a soda, a bottle of soda is already being taxed when you buy it, right? You are paying tax. So which means if soda today is $1, depends on where they get their products and all that, packaging and the rest of it. There is possibility that tomorrow a dollar soda tomorrow might be $2 or $3, right? What happened? Prices up, and what you are also paying a direct tax on that. That's why when they say that the consumer, right, or the citizens are the ones that the tariff affects, they think you are joking. Charlie Kirk, shut up. Indirectly, directly or indirectly, you pay tax. You do. I will just leave it at this. Bye for now.